Chapter 5 Degradation and Empowerment.
What happened after that?
Rachael asked. It's hard to say, but I won't. In the darkness, it's hard to tell what's real and what's imagination. What monsters did I make up, and which monsters did I actually interact with? Thyme shook his head, dismissing the thought. Rachael sipped her drink.
You traveled very far after that.
To Romanian lands, right? Yes. The foreign language was not so difficult to learn. Here, though, was probably the worst. Thyme raised an eyebrow at the prospect of where he was and what he was doing. The thought of actually being in an actual Transylvanian castle was a cheesy thought, to say the least. He's explored a great deal of pop culture, literature, both classic and modern, the sciences, and of course these dark arts. He was on a train contemplating what he was doing. The mountains in the background behind the country scene during the sundown was a beautiful sight to behold. He stared at it, feeling comfort at the serenity.
This barren frenzy is one I must go to in order to learn about Hastur and the ways of degradation magic. This thought sickens me. This feels cliché. Am I going to approach a castle that is in ruins, knock on the dilapidated door, be greeted by some shambling horror, and then fight for my very life to not become some ghoul myself, at the mercy of this vampire thing? Is he a vampire? He's lived for centuries. Firenze thrives on the powers of Hastur. He must be some kind of thing. What will he do with me? No, they need me for some sinister purpose, and it can't be here. This is just another stop on my long journey.
The train came to a stop at a small station with nothing more than a shack and a stepladder. Thyme hesitated to exit. He looked to the conductor, questioning. The man nodded his head, answering the silent question, confirming that this was indeed his stop. No words were exchanged. Thyme disembarked. The train did not wait for him. His single bag rested by his feet. This region was forested. Most of the view was blocked by trees. The road, however, was visible, as well as the single sedan that waited. The driver, at sight of Thyme, rushed over to him by foot. This man was finely dressed and wore a smile.
You must be Thyme, sir, the driver said. Here, let me take your bag, sir.
The man immediately picked up the bag and moved to the car to place it in the trunk.
A car? I was expecting a horse-drawn carriage. A what? Sorry, sir, we will have to make do with this for transport.
He held the back seat door open for Thyme. This black sedan was nondescript on the outside. On the inside, however, it had leather seating, air and heat controls, all the comforts one could install in such a vehicle. One compartment held a minibar with as wide a variety of alcoholic drinks as could be provided, including a bottle of scotch. Not the cheap stuff either. Thyme considered having his first drink, then shook his head, thinking better of it. On the drive, the stranger said very little. He only responded when Thyme asked a question.
How long is the ride? 1.5 hours, sir. How long have you lived here in Transylvania? My entire life, sir. Anything interesting besides the scenery? Yes, sir. We have great nature walks, historical sites, and culture. Vampires? No, sir,
he said in a humorless tone.
Do you get asked that one frequently? No, sir, though tourists do tend to ask or say such things.
They arrived, and it was not the run-down, dilapidated sight Thyme expected. The landscape was well taken care of. Trees were all perfectly trimmed, the vast lawn spread wide in every direction. Paths protruded throughout, leading to any place one might desire to walk to, thus giving no cause to walk on this well-kept lawn. Short square bushes lined the paths. The castle itself looked modern. Some of the stones were from the original structure that once stood here. Most of it, however, was fresh, giving signs of good plumbing, electricity, and insulation all throughout this castle. Gargoyles perched atop the pillars on the top corners, both new and old. The new ones were easy to spot. The stone was darker from less exposure to the sun. The driver led Thyme to the front door. He held the door open.
Master Thyme, welcome.
Thyme walked in. The inside was just as decorative as the outside. While there were antiques and a few old oddities here and there, the majority of everything furnished and placed was modern and new. 90% of everything in sight could not be less than 5 or 6 years old. Even the grandfather clock standing in the back of the entryway between the double stairs going up to the second floor might as well still have had the price tag on it. Thyme was in awe of the unexpected sight. He even breathed a sigh of relief. His attention was stolen by the driver.
This way, sir, to your quarters.
He was led up one of the double stairwells and down a corridor, passing at least a dozen different rooms. The man opened the door.
Here is where you will stay, Master Thyme. Your private bath should have anything you might need. Servants will clean and restock it daily during your studies with Master Ferenzi. Should you need anything, there is a phone next to the bed and a button next to that which will immediately bring someone to you. Is there anything you need, Master Thyme?
Where is the Baron?
He will ring for you when you are needed.
The man left. This room had anything one could desire to keep themselves occupied, distracted, and content. A big screen TV with all the channels from around the world, an expensive computer with high-speed internet, and staff waiting hand and foot were available by the mere push of a button. This was the most accommodated Thyme has ever been treated, and probably ever will be treated. He picked up the remote for the television, squinted his eyes, and shook his head. Thinking better of it, he returned the remote to the resting place.
I shouldn't waste time, he laughed.
Time shouldn't waste time. He chuckled, then walked out of his room. The look of surprise on his face at the unexpected sight of a man in a custom-trimmed yellow pinstripe on a black suit leaning against the wall, clearly waiting for him. His hair was well-groomed, parted on the right, with water or gel keeping it in place. He wore a ring on the middle finger of each hand. The rings had a yellow gem. Round his neck and dangling in front of his tucked-in tie was a small, curious yellow pendant.
Right to work we go. Too much to do and too little time to do it.
The man stood up straight.
I've heard from others that you're squeamish. No worries, I'll get you calloused up soon enough. Soon, would you rather torture yourself or someone else? You can do either one.
What? Thyme said. The man let out a dry laugh.
I assume you're Baron Ferenzi?
Thyme extended his hand for a handshake. The man walked away from Thyme without looking back. He raised his hand, signaling him to follow.
None of that nonsense pleasantries.
They walked downstairs into another room. The door was closed with a sigil etched into the center of the door. Ferenzi placed his hand on the sigil. It lit up, and the door vanished. The two walked in.
Lesson 1. Do you recognize the yellow sign?
Was it on the door?
Yes. Did you know that prior to this moment?
No, sir.
A pity. I'm going to give you some reading to do in your spare time, which will be sooner than you think.
They stopped at a bookshelf. He pulled out 2 books. One was a thin paperback. The other was a thick tome bound in leather with the yellow sign on the cover.
Read the thin one first. It's easy, light. You'll like it. It's even entertaining.
Thyme took the books. A quick glance at the thin book cover and inner cover read, The King in Yellow by Sir Robert Chambers, 1895. The other book emitted an almost tangible fear. Thyme did not open the second one.
You will know by the time you finish those 2 books all you will ever need to know about my Lord Master Hastur. Come this way.
They walked down the stone corridor, further down an incline that Thyme deduced comprised the majority of the basement of this castle. They passed by several torture chambers that included, to no surprise of Thyme, the same sort of chains manacles dangling from the walls. Tables showing knives, both surgical and non-surgical alike. One room had a bucket of water and a large manacled table for water torture. An enclosed rubber room was there as well. Ferenzi led Thyme into an empty room, save one chair and one table. He motioned for Thyme to walk in, then closed the door behind him. A locking sound was heard. "Take all the time you need," Baron Ferenzi then walked away. Thyme sighed, then formed a sad, unsurprised smirk. "He doesn't waste any time. Just me and these books." He finished the thin book in a little under 2 hours, after which he stood up, stretching, attempting to reconcile his entrapment, and while the book was good, boredom ensnared him. The thick book looked like it could take weeks to read all the way through. Even in a trapped enclosure like this, with only this book, it would take far longer than Thyme had. He felt around the room, touching the walls, parts of the floor, essentially examining in full detail his small surroundings. The door was undoubtedly locked. Thyme checked several times. It was made of thick iron. The stone walls were also far too durable, thus ensuring his inescapable situation. Finally, accepting that there was no other choice, he sat down to read that other book. The very touch of this book sent shivers down his spine. When he opened it, the cover page had the same title as the former, The King in Yellow. He cocked his head in mild confusion, even glancing at the other book to confirm the identical name. There was no author or publication date on this one. The King in Yellow was a book about a book by the same name that drives men insane upon reading it. Could this actually be the aforementioned book? Thyme turned the page. As he did so, he no longer perceived outside of this book. There was no behind him, there was no under him. The left and right did not exist, as were above and below. It was as if this book was all that existed. Even the table it sat upon faded out of focus. Thyme was incapable of looking away. He could not feel the chair on which it sat. He found himself reading the book, uncontrollably flipping page after page. The first page showed the same yellow sign that was on the earlier door, except he felt it invading his mind, burning into his memory, permanently making the mark upon his very soul. His fingers drew onto the table the yellow sign. He left no mark, but he knew his fingers moved on their own, controlled by an unseen and unknown force. The intricacies of this yellow sign were becoming a part of him. The color yellow, which was in this book, periodically looked different. Yellow was no longer yellow, and will never be seen the same again. His eyes widened at the revelation and truth that could never be unseen. Yellow pulsated with a grotesque malignance that will always show itself to him. My God, I can see it. It was always there, just in the color. How did I never see it? How does no one see this? Thyme wanted nothing more than to look away. His eyes failed his command, and his mind continued to drink from this forbidden knowledge. The following section was about Hastur himself, his history, and his hatreds. Cthulhu and Hastur were rivals, though they were never truly destroyed one another. They thwarted one another in any way they could. Hastur came from beyond the stars, from a place unfathomable by the human mind. Thyme, through reading this book, actually peeked into the far-off place. It was akin to a different dimension, but that was not fully true. It was both here and not here. It was far away physically, mentally, and something Thyme could not describe. Even while actively looking directly at it, the shapes and forms were non-Euclidean and spiraled away from understanding by his feeble senses. Hastur had a physical form, if he so chose, shaped like a man but unrecognizable as a man. His physical form was robed in golden yellow robes. He wore a silken yellow mask These things could not fully hide his wormy features. Behind that mask, though, through the slits between mask and robes, his putrid details writhed in undeniable disgust at anything Time might find comforting. Hastur was the god of degradation. His powers thrived in anything that mutated from their natural form. Anything that disgusted the common man pleased him. From the simple maggot fly changing into its adult form all the way to human suffering and perversion, this god had dominion. A sense of hours passed on this first section alone flowed into section 3 of the manuscript. The ways of degradation in their full description, capability, and potential were written. Time was forced to read these horrid words. He winced at their meaning. He actually felt his brain losing itself, not to insanity, but filling up with this knowledge as if the book was copying itself like a computer copied a file. Unlike a computer, though, Time knew this cannot be deleted. These methods of pleasing Hastur dominated his consciousness. They showed him how to charge his magic in the name of the King in Yellow. His hands trembled as he turned to the 4th section deep in the book. Here spells were present, revealing to him how to employ the magic. He knew his eyes were reading the words, but he saw, heard, felt, and interacted physically some place else. He moved about as a second person or in a second body, all the while reading. This other body moved by its own will. His cognition split. The second self was standing on a surface that was unknown yellow material. Strange shapes floated and lingered all around him. Stairs led up or down directly in front of him. This second self had no sense of direction as he willed his body forward. Is this a body? He could not tell. All around him were shining objects of a never-before-seen color mixed with the now visible putrid version of yellow. Those objects were stationary, but danced on their own. No wind was felt. These things wiggled and pulsated. Their forms were gelatinous and spectral. The gelatinous-colored balls hummed in a sound that was different from auditory, not quite mental either. The sounds they exhumed were disturbing in their strangeness. Time reached to one. It writhed as he came closer. The jelly thing was pierced by his finger the moment he felt it. The jelly thing accepted his touch, stopped dancing and humming. It shot out tendrils from itself. Those tendrils wrapped around Time's hand. They slithered further up his arm, growing more tendrils. In the process, he tried to pull back. It was of no avail. The thing had a firm hold upon him, and it would not let go. The touch gave a burning sensation on both the touched portions of his body and on his very mind. Something slithered in his mind the further the thing arched across his body. A memory within his mind, one of a pleasant afternoon playing a child's game with other children. It being pushed out of his mind as this jelly thing took its place. The memory faded into oblivion. Upon any attempt to recall the casual childhood memory, only this jelly thing's hum was all that could be felt, seen, heard, or known. What is this? The jelly thing was gone, permanently etched in his mind. Time stopped moving around. Far in the distance, he felt, not saw, a presence watching him. Is that Baron Ferenzi? He looked at his hands. The burn marks were disappearing right before his eyes. What did that thing do? He thought of the memory, and thought of the jelly thing. It was not alive, but nor was it not alive either. The thing in his mind, somehow Time knew what it was. Pain. This thing was pain incarnate. Pain not as neurons would interpret, but a way to conjure pain upon another, a way to manipulate and create pain upon others, or himself if he so desired. Is this the magic? Horrid magic? The thing actually became a part of me. I have to give up parts of myself in order to learn this magic. Time commanded his body to sit down
On this impossible ground, he crossed what must be his legs and attempted to focus. I cannot lose all of myself to this. I must keep at least part of me before I leave here. I have only known pain, agony, and misery. There is one thing in my life that to me, good or just or worth something. Rachael, I cannot let this magic take from me my memory of her. He built a mental barrier around those memories of his twin sister. Using the power of Cthulhu, the god of nightmares, this barrier was built. It expended all of the remaining magic within his soul to do this, so Thyme felt his precious memories were safeguarded. There was something else he felt as well. The force that was watching him was angered. Far in the distance, large, solid, red eyes glared at Thyme with a fury that made no sound. He felt them penetrating his soul with their animosity. Thyme avoided their gaze. He touched jelly thing after jelly thing, allowing it to seep into his mind and soul, replacing the old memories with the new magics. Pain, mutation, innervation, cancer, disease, poison. There were countless, thousands, or even millions of those jelly things humming their strange magic. One, however, pulsated and writhed, larger than the rest. This mysterious magic was nearby. Here he reached for it, then was thrusted back, far back from it. Those eyes were larger and closer as they moved him. They refused to allow Thyme to touch that one magic. A voice echoed, physically and mentally, booming, louder than anything Thyme has ever known. You have invoked his name here. Now you dare to take more from me? You shall never have the greatest gift of mine. Leave my realm and never return. Thyme felt his body moving wildly about in indiscernible directions. His body was being torn to shreds. The pain was too great to bear. Everything flashed, then went black. Thyme woke up not in the dank cell, but in the bed he was assigned to. His bag was still packed. He jumped out of bed, snatched the bag, and hurried to get out of this place. As he rushed past the kitchen towards the door, Baron Ferenzi was sitting at the table with an angry scowl across his face. He stared at Thyme as he attempted to flee. "What did you do in there?" he demanded. Thyme stopped moving, frozen in place, metaphorically. He could not tell if magic had stopped him or if natural fear held him in place. He did not know what to say. "Tell me now!" Thyme struggled to spit some kind of answer out. I should leave? Oh yes, you are certainly no longer welcome here. Before you go, though, you will tell me what you did to anger Hastur. The magic, those things, they took over my mind. They were replacing my memories." He paused, attempting to formulate the next words. Ferenzi said nothing, only stared, waiting for Thyme to say more. I couldn't let them have all of me. I had to protect part of me that is good. I invoked the power of nightmares to keep those memories safeguarded. Nightmares? Cthulhu. Ferenzi refused to finish that name. As the most loyal servant of Hastur, he dared not say the name of Hastur's enemy. That was clever, but stupid. You already knew what Hastur thought of his brother. Foolish person. You can never learn any more magic from him. What little you gained, that's it. Worse still, he will always hate you. My lord may even go so far as to curse you, kill you, or worse, get out of this house, never come back. Thyme rushed to the door, but stopped, turned back. How do I get to the train station? Get out now! Many hours did he walk to return back to the train station. That little shack and footstool. Me? Asked Rachael. Thyme looked away, cheeks red from embarrassment. I don't want to talk about it, but yes. I love you too, Thyme. Rachael stood up and hugged her brother. He tried to resist, but ultimately didn't. Their embrace was long. She eventually stepped back and wiped a tear from her eye. I keep telling everyone that there's good in you. Well, can you not do that? I am an embarrassment to my kind as it is.
Rachael opened her mouth to interject, but closed it and sat down.
Now it's your turn.
What did you learn from Sven Ungar? Thyme said as he settled back in his chair. Well, like you, I had to travel. Sweden is nice. The plane landed. The Swiss Alps were a beautiful sight all on its own. The snow settled on top, gleamed in a bright sunlight. She stepped into a terminal, and a man held a sign with her name on it. This obviously dressed chauffeur was staring at her, looking bored. Ah, you must be. Rachael was cut off. The man replied. I'm sorry, I don't... hold on. She pulled out her translation book and flipped through pages. Jeg. Okay, that means I. She flipped more pages. Snickar? The man frowned impatiently. Snickar. Ike English, he said slowly. Okay, English. Right, I got that one. Snickar Ike. Flipping more pages and sounding out of words, she finally said with an excited tone, I do not speak English. Oh, finally. He waved for her to follow. Rachael waved her hand, casting a spell. She could not speak the language. Beklager for that, she said with no difficulty. It translated to, sorry about that. Oh, so you do speak Norwegian, the man said in a respective language. Well, sort of, she said. The man shrugged, leading her to the limousine. He held the door open. She thanked him while getting in. In the foreign language, he continued the conversation. So what brings you to our fine nation, if you do not mind me asking, ma'am? I'm here for schooling. Ah, the university. We have some of the finest brain surgeons in the world. Rachael smiled and nodded, not humoring the man, but genuinely agreeing with him. Looking out the window, she thought, I wonder what it's like. They do good without a motive to empower their magic. I have faith in humanity, knowing that there are genuinely good people out there. The limo came to a stop. She grabbed her single bag and walked inside of her destination. The building was nondescript. Rachael, come on inside. We have lots of work to do, and you're just in time for an enriching experience. Thoughts were pushed into her mind. What? It took her a moment to realize the usage of telepathy. Right. I'm coming. Though I have no idea if you can even hear me verbally or mentally. Rachael walked inside. The entryway was bland, consisting of nothing more than a coat rack. Several chairs with magazines were adjacent on a coffee table. A sign indicated a one-stall restroom, and an additional door continued into the facility. She opened the door to proceed. Rachael, we have about to perform an advanced spell. I want you not only observe but participate, a man said, standing in the middle of the room. He motioned for her to follow and walked through another door. She did as bidden. They were in a room that looked less modern and more arcane. Bookshelves lined the walls. Periodically, there were tables holding crystal balls, strange talismans, locked metal boxes, and even an array of crucifixes. Rachael stared at the Christian icons. She said nothing. You're wondering why we have religious paraphernalia. No time to explain that now. The ritual awaits. Follow my instructions, and you will find this a most enlightening experience. His excited tones were undeniable. They walked through an additional door. This new room had a circle with 3 others standing. There were 2 empty spaces that could only be for Rachael and this man that led her. He took his place in one of those spaces. She did the same in the final open space. I've never done a ritual before, she said in English. Her language spell has worn off.
That's fine, Rachel, the man said in English. Just say what we say and do what we do. The symbolism is the most important part. I need you to think good thoughts, give off positive vibes, and when we release our magic into the circle, you do the same. Their words shifted from each participant. The man that led them spoke Latin, the next person Norwegian, the next German, the next French, and then it was Rachel's turn. She only knew English and had no idea what the others said. She did not wish to disrupt the ritual, so she said the only words that came to mind. Kaya be with you. No one reacted to her words. One at a time, in the same order, they expended their magic. It left their bodies as a ball of light from their chests. Rachel did not hesitate. When it was her turn, finally, they all spoke at the same time. Rachel didn't know how, but she spoke with them, saying words in a language she did not know. The words came out naturally, with no difficulty. Rachel did not know how, but she spoke with them, saying words in a language she did not know. The words came out naturally, with no difficulty. Rachel gasped, surprised at how she did that perfectly, confused about what she just did and said. The magic in the center of the circle swirled over the object in the center, which Rachel only just now noticed. It was a sealed letter. The magic seeped into the letter, infused into it. Everyone relaxed. Well done, Rachel. See, I knew you could do it. He bent back down to pick up the letter and handed it to one of the others. Take this to the student we pre-selected. The man nodded, taking the letter, and walked away without saying a word. The others dispersed as well, leaving just Rachel and this man. Good. Now then, I'm not sorry about that. Doing good is nothing to ever apologize, even if there is some rudeness attached. I suppose it's time for introductions. I am Sven Ungar. He extended his hand. Rachel shook it. I am He cut her off. Rachel, yes, I know. His smile was warm. Sir, how do we do that? How did I know that what to say and what to do? Now, Rachel, none of that formality stuff. You already know that. Please call me Sven. And to answer your question, I put that knowledge into your head. She cocked her head, confused. You went into my head without my permission? Sven held up his hands defensively. Oh, I did not mean anything wrong by it. I taught you how to do that ritual while you were on the plane. It's in your subconscious now. That's part of what we do here. Thank you, I guess, but please, in the future, ask Sven. Right, I understand. You should, however, understand the benefits of instant learning. Learning for books is fine and practical, I suppose. However, a huge part of empowerment magic is instant learning. The ritual we just did, for example, is 8 years worth of medical school. Right now, Henry, that's the man whom I gave the envelope to, will be giving it to a first-year student. That student will continue their medical training, but it will be accelerated, and they will go on to save many, many lives, thanks to us. Absolutely amazing, Sven. Still, I must insist on permission first. As you wish, Rachel. Well, I suppose it would be for the best to explain some of the other things I have placed in your mind. Rachel sighed, dropping her smile into a frown. I have already taught you 24 spells, rituals, and methods of changing your magic for empowerment spells. In truth, he began pacing the room. The only thing left for you to learn is just practicing using it. Those other 3 have been here less than a month. They're just practicing what I subconsciously taught them. That's wrong, Sven. Giving you knowledge is wrong? No, I mean going into a person's mind and fiddling with their memories without their permission. It's wrong. Oh, I see. Rachel, on occasion I get a student that has same problem as you. If you just looked at it from my perspective and accepted that I know what's best when it comes to this, you will benefit so much. You have a great deal of promise, young lady, and I want to help you.
Rachel opened her mouth to protest, but he continued, not giving her the opportunity.
Yes, it is a little immoral, I agree, but so much more efficient doing things my way. A little impropriety in exchange for some life-saving magic is nothing I have ever been sorry for.
The student we did the ritual for, do they even know? Sven made a surprised face. He shook his head, dismissing the surprise.
Of course not, no. The man will go on to do great things, and we made it so much easier for him to do it.
I cannot believe you do not see what's wrong with this. Sven put his hand up in a halting motion.
We're having a circular argument. I'll just go ahead and put the understanding into your mind for you.
Rachel stepped back.
No! She shouted. That's my point. You can't do that without someone's permission. It's wrong. All right, Rachel, have it your way. Well, I have already placed protections into your mind. Merely concentrate on shielding your mind, and the knowledge will come to you. He sighed. If only you understood how much faster magic is to learn when placed in advance, but I'll respect your wishes. We're just going to have to agree to disagree.
Rachel shook her head and left without saying another word. Thyme was leaning back in his chair, waiting for Rachel to continue. She was staring at him.
That's it? You just left before your training was completed?
He said he already put the knowledge into my mind. I had no desire to stay with a person that enters my mind like that without being invited. Well, good for you for standing up for yourself. End of chapter 5.